Chapter 62 The Minotaur of the Fifth Floor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After disposing of the man-eating frog, Belle put away the man-eating frog's drop. Wow, the drops of man-eating frogs are a little too disgusting, right? That in addition to the standard magic stone drops, man-eating frogs also have frog tongues and frog eyes, but both frog tongues and frog eyes make people feel disgusting, especially these two playthings are still stained with unknown mucus, which makes them feel even more disgusting in a sense, but there is no way that these toys can be regarded as relatively rare drops. The guide said that these two toys have the value of alchemy, but this is a normal thing. After all, most of the drops of monsters in the dungeon can be used, otherwise there is no need to breed these monsters in the dungeon. After packing these things, Belle quickly made his way to the fourth floor. After entering the fourth floor, Belle soon saw the monsters on this floor. The whole body is wrapped in purple-black carapace, and even the luster-like metal can be seen, and there is a tail thorn on the tail that is constantly flinging around. The mouth parts also made strange noises, and the two pliers also exuded a sheen that should not be underestimated. Venomous scorpions, their tails contain unimaginable neurotoxins. They won't die immediately if they are stabbed, but the nerves of the body will gradually become paralyzed. With sharp pliers, even steel can be cut off. Once the adventurer is poisoned, pliers can easily tear adventurers to pieces. Jade the scorpion on the fourth floor must be the first challenge to the adventurer's weapon. The only soft part of Scorpio is the abdomen, but the Scorpio moves close to the ground, and it is too difficult to hit the abdomen. But in addition to the abdomen, there are Scorpio's tail spines can be used as the target of the attack. The body of the Scorpio is almost crawling close to the ground. Although its pincers are very sharp, the pincers of the scorpion have an attack range, and the back are obviously not within the range of the scorpion's attack. As long as the tail spines can be removed at the first time, then the Scorpio will not pose any threat. Scorpio's tail spine is its attack channel, and it is also connected to the vital organs of the body. Therefore, the scorpion's tail thorn is a dangerous weapon, but it is also the most deadly part to the scorpion. But the scorpion's tail thorn is very hard, and although ordinary weapons can cut holes, if it can't reach the sharpness of the goblin dagger, it is estimated that it is difficult to directly hit the scorpion's tail thorn every few dozen times. Take down. As for pulling the tail thorns off with brute force, it is too difficult. Such strength may at least have the strength of LV.2, which is impossible for adventurers of LV.1. Lightning flashed, the sword wrapped around the thunder, and almost at this moment, it turned into the Bodhi-Yuhuan and slashed all the monsters with one sword. The thunder flashed away, and there was a scorching stench in the air. Scorpio's hard carapace is like butter cut by a hot knife, and the red part of the outer armor can even be seen. All the scorpions that had lost their vitality turned into black ashes, leaving only the magic stone and the tail thorn at the tail. After putting all these things into the four-dimensional space, Belle also breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing the voice behind, there was no sound of footsteps behind. It should be that the team that initially separated at the entrance had not all stepped down. It seems that those adventurers still focus on safety, not speed. In fact, Belle himself is not a speed-oriented adventurer. His magic prompts his fighting style to be one-hit kills, but Belle knew that many times he needed to keep his hands. After all, no one knew whether they would use this method against their own people in the future. Speed up as quickly as possible without anyone noticing, but you can't speed yourself up too much when someone notices it. The threat of the scorpion on the fourth floor is also very limited, and the next step is to go to the fifth floor. Belle didn't stop at this floor, but rushed to the fifth floor quickly. The fifth floor is slightly different from the previous floors. The most famous monster on this floor is the killer ant. Its size is like a version of the ant that has been magnified hundreds of times, and it also likes to hide in the wall. A surprise for adventurers. It's just that when Belle listened carefully to the sounds around him, he couldn't hear the sound of the ants moving at all. Strange. The guide clearly states that as long as you pay attention to the surrounding sounds, you can find the location of the killer ants. Is there a problem with this part? That looking at the guide in his hand, Belle suddenly began to doubt the authenticity of the guide. This seems to be the second time, right? For the first time, the raiders emphasize that monsters do not have self-awareness, and even wisdom does not exist. The second time it went wrong is now. but with a thoughtful heart, Bell just raised a question in his heart and did not directly regard this question as a mistake, but chose one of the forked passages at the entrance and walked in. Moo, at the intersection in the middle of the aisle, a sound not far away made Bell stop. Cow howl. This is the 5th floor, not the 15th floor, right? Just as Bell wondered, the series of footsteps in his ears were getting closer, not 1 or 2, but 4 or 5 footsteps coming together. The sound was getting closer and the footsteps were getting heavier. Right in front of Bell's eyes, 5 Minotaurs with axes jumped out from the corner. Minotaur, a monster born with 570 tauren, belongs to the LV.2 monster. The floor should be 15th floor. Why do these guys come to the 5th floor? It's just that Bell doesn't have time to think about those things. At this moment, Bell heard the sound of footsteps approaching fast in the distance. The target was clear, and it seemed to be for these Minotaurs. Then Bell reacted, and he knew why he was in this situation. It's time for the official plot to begin. Bell's eyes glanced at the 5 Minotaurs who were already eyeing him. Isn't there one in the plot? Why is it my turn to be 5? Take a deep breath. If today is the time when the plot officially begins to move forward, then the voice of the footsteps behind is very clear. Ace Wallenstein, the sword princess of Loki's family, is also the youngest LV.5 adventurer of Orari. In other words, give me very little time. Bell immediately took out the blade of Hestia. Since it was sent to the prey in front of him, how could he let the prey run away? Of course, Bell also wanted to see if the 5 Minotaurs could allow him to accumulate enough great deeds. Lightning on. P.S. 4 collections, 4 flowers, 4 evaluation. Chapter 63 The Loki Family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bell, in the form of Ray, rushed towards the Minotaur. The sharp blade of Hestia cut the throat of a tauren almost instantly, and almost instantly the Minotaur turned into a mass of black ashes, leaving only a magic stone and a broken piece. Horns and an axe. I can't fight, I still need to get out of here in a moment. Although Bell hopes that the person coming over there is just a deaf and blind person, the fact is that the perception ability of the adventurer is unexpectedly abnormal. If you want to fight at such a distance, you have to hide an adventurer who rushed over here. It's just a fool's dream. Since you can't hide it, you can only fight quickly. Studying the Minotaur is not a job right now, and there is no rush to think about those things when you can enter the 15th floor in the future. The other Minotaurs also sense the strange atmosphere, roaring to intimidate the surroundings, and swiftly waving the axe in their hands. Unfortunately, this approach also shows that the Minotaur really can't see any action. A blast of thunder flashed past the popliteal fossa of the Minotaur's calf. Pft! Ah ah ah! The sprayed blood stained the ground red, and the screams of the Minotaur also resounded throughout the 5th floor. Even the people who rushed over couldn't help but pause for a moment, that is, to seize the momentary gap. Bell did not pause at all. The blade of Hestia held by his backhand drew a beautiful arc in the space, and the air could even smell the burning breath. But this knife also successfully slashed the 4 Minotaurs who were kneeling on the ground, turning them into black ashes. Bell took all the dropped objects into the 4-dimensional space almost at the moment of slashing the Minotaur, and left the scene at the fastest speed. He couldn't stay on the 5th floor, and even if he wanted to exercise, he had to go to the 4th or 3rd floor to exercise. If you act under the nose of the Loki familia, the chances of being found are too high. Bell didn't want to gamble in a place like this. As for the Xingyue of the Loki family, it's better to have less contact with them before they grow up. Otherwise, once they get close, they may be targeted by some Xingyue fans. Controlling the state of Lehua, let himself quickly leave the scene. Almost the second after Bell left, a blonde girl wrapped in the wind came to the battlefield just now. A silver armor and a white lining, very light armor, highlights the girl's exquisite figure to the fullest, and the buttocks wrapped by the skirt is even more noticeable. The girl's name is Ace Wallenstein, a LV.5 adventurer who belongs to the Loki familia. Its youth, beauty and strength are the 3 most attractive points for adventurers, and its rapidly growing strength is one of the most concerned objects for adventurers in the city of Orari. But now the object of the attention of the adventurers up and down Orari is tilted his head in an incomprehensible way. So soon, that the opponents are only 5 Minotaurs. It is not very troublesome to solve the problem quickly, but the speed just now is a bit out of line. Ace could be sure that she heard the slight thunder and it took less than 5 seconds for her to arrive at the scene, but the Minotaur was killed in less than 5 seconds. She listened carefully to the movements around her. The thunder just now had disappeared, obviously it had gone far away. I sensed the surrounding aura, but I didn't feel anyone hiding around. In other words, the other party ran away quickly after killing the Minotaur. The lower-level adventurers can't do it, and the upper-level adventurers disdain to do it. Ace, the other members of the Loki familia who were one step behind Ace also caught up. Ace, what about the Minotaur? The person who asked the question was a boy with a golden spear, but really don't treat this boy as a young child. There is a special ethnic group called Little Human Race in the city of Orari, and their image is like a child no matter how old they are, and the little people who asked the question were not some unknown person. This child was also the leader of the Loki familia, named Fin-Dimna, and the title was Brave. Ace shook her head blankly. I heard the screams and thunder of the Minotaur, and it was gone when I rushed over. Fin frowned slightly. Someone can kill 5 Minotaurs before they and Ace arrive, so this strength is definitely not weak, and when Ace heard the screams of the Minotaur and rushed here, but both the Minotaur and the other party disappeared, it means that the other party not only has enough strength, but also deliberately hides himself. Identity of. As for the thunder, I am afraid it is a kind of magic. Reveria. 99. The elves holding the gorgeous wand inlaid with gems nodded slightly. As one of the 3 LV.6 members of the Rocky family, he is also the deputy head of the Rocky family, a royal elf, the strongest wizard in the city, and Livy, who is known as the 9 Magic Princess Leah Rios Alfredo. As the royal family of the elves, they have a great affinity for magic elements. And magic is also the power that the elves are best at, and the same is true for Reveria. After simply feeling the surrounding thunder elements, Reveria frowned. Fin noticed Reveria's mood changes and couldn't help but ask. 01J. The very powerful thunder element is completely different from other thunder elements. It is even more violent. Even if it is an affinity element, I will be repelled if I touch it a little. There are 2 reasons for this. 1. The opponent's strength far exceeds mine, and the thunder element he envoys is not something I can touch at all. 55. Secondly, the opponent has a special thunder attribute magic, which will make the elements violent and cannot be used by others. Then, that's the second reason. LV.6 is almost at the apex in Orari, except for the only LV.7 Audi. There are almost no other LV.7 adventurers, so the reason can only be the second. Fin made such a judgment, and Reveria also had the same idea. The strength far exceeds her, and she can far exceed her in the element of the envoy. Even if such a person really exists, it is impossible to remain anonymous, so, the second possibility is too high. Fin did not expect that such an adventurer would still exist in Orari. Ace, how long has it been since you heard the voice and rushed over? Li Zhao's. 5 seconds. Ace thought for a moment and gave the exact time. In 5 seconds, he killed 5 Minotaurs, took away the Minotaur's magic stone, and escaped Ace's perception. Then the other party should have sensed Ace's existence, ended the battle within 5 seconds, and left quickly. It seems that the other party is deliberately hiding his identity. Being able to intentionally hide an identity, if it's not an identity that needs to be hidden, then it's a new person. Most of the adventurers with sufficient strength are acquaintances and do not need to deliberately hide their identities. As for those of the dark faction, they won't be on the 5th floor. Therefore, Fin has put the other party's identity in the list of newcomers at this moment. Killing the Minotaur may require the strength of LV.2, but there are also unexpected situations. If the opponent has special magic, then it is not impossible to kill the Minotaur in a short time. PS. 4. Collections, for flowers, for evaluation. Chapter 65 Aegina's Reminder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the evening, Belle came out of the dungeon almost at the time when the sun went down. Among the crowd who came out from the entrance of the dungeon, Belle went to the guild first today. In the case that the harvest of the dungeon is not very large, it can be handled in the guild, and some low-level materials and magic stones. Belle are also embarrassed to trouble Hephaestus to God. This evening, the people in the guild began to grow a little more, and many reception consultants were in charge of their own adventures. Coincidentally, Aegina was also dealing with some of the other adventurers in charge. However, consultants such as receptionists are not responsible for only one person, and a receptionist usually receives many adventurers. As the most popular receptionist in the guild, Aegina is naturally sought after by many adventurers. And being the adventurer she is responsible for is also something that many adventurers are vying for. Unfortunately, the receptionist responsible for adventurers is randomly assigned by the guild, and it is still very difficult to assign Aegina as an advisor. Of course, this does not include Belle, who is already the adventurer in charge of Aegina. Seeing that the adventurer facing Aegina had left, Belle walked over. Miss Aegina. 35, Mr. Bell. Before she could breathe a sigh of relief, Aegina looked up when she heard a familiar voice and saw the child she had always been worried about. His eyes swept over the child, and after confirming that he was all right, he finally let go of the worries in his heart these days. Aina, who was about to say something, suddenly stopped. She has not forgotten many secrets about this child, so some words are not suitable to be said here. As for the secret trading room, it is not suitable. If you stare at it so much, if the extra things are noticed, things will become very troublesome. Aegina couldn't help laughing at Belle. Belle-kun, have you been an adventurer for so long? Are you still like this? Belle was a little puzzled by this sentence, but he understood it instantly when he saw the gesture in Miss Aegina's eyes. He nodded slightly dully. I'm not very good at this kind of situation. Aegina sighed helplessly, and supported herself on the table with both hands to stand up. It's better for you to get used to this state. As an adventurer, you will definitely be in contact with many adventurers in the future, so it's not good if you don't like this kind of situation. But looking at the child in front of him, he sighed again. You just came back from the dungeon, let's go to the lounge and talk. 99. Belle, who was not good at words, didn't say anything, just nodded slightly, and followed Miss Aegina to the room next to the guild's secret trading room for rest and ordinary conversation. This room is often used by many of the guild's receptionists and adventurers. For example, the receptionist talks to the adventurer, helps the adventurer adjust their mood, and gives the adventurer a place to help the adventurer. There are usually only 2 people entering this room each time, and a sign in use will be hung outside when using it. As long as there is a room with a sign, usually no adventurers or receptionists will walk in. In fact, there are many such lounges in the guild's exchange, and this is a place for the convenience of receptionists and adventurers, and naturally there will not be only one. However, the confidentiality of the room is not as good as the secret trading room, but unless it is under surveillance, no one will deliberately stare at such a lounge. Aegina took Belle into one of the more remote lounges, and put a "In Use" sign on the handle outside. After entering the room, the two sat on the sofa facing each other. Although he was still wearing a hood, he couldn't see any emotions, but Belle's voice didn't feel as distant as before. Miss Aina, your acting is so good, I almost didn't react. Aina, who was praised, also showed a bright smile. How do you think I worked out? Usually facing all kinds of adventurers in the guild, we need to use different attitudes, otherwise how could I become the guild's ace receptionist? Tell people to talk to ghosts. This is the professional skills every guild receptionist needs. It is impossible to have the same attitude towards everyone, even if it is only subtly different. Aina has always put her work first, and she must have mastered the skills necessary for receptionists. Of course, it is unfeasible to act hypocritically, to maximize the responsibility and obligation, and then use a different attitude towards everyone in the reception work, which is why Aina became the guild's ace receptionist. Afterwards, Aegina's expression did not change in any way, but she brought up a very serious topic. Ask for flowers. Mr. Bell, did you cause the riot yesterday? Bell doesn't dispute that either. Because of the convenience that my skills brought me, it also brought me some bad luck, which led to a riot in the entire dungeon. But I tried my best to control it today. 99. Aegina was visibly relieved, but she still had to remind Belle. Control is necessary. Did you know that the guild started to act because of yesterday's riot? The guild has not yet found out the specific reason, but if you continue to cause that kind of riot, you will soon be investigated. And, according to what I know, this time it's not just the guild that is investigating the reason for the riot in the dungeon, almost the entire family of Orari is investigating. So you have to hide that kind of thoughts. Well, recently, at least you can't do that recently. In fact, helping Belle hide from the guild was Aegina's best effort. Although she knew the reason for the riot in the dungeon, she had to hide it, otherwise the child in front of her would definitely become the target of the gods. Fortunately, I know that you are not from the dark faction, otherwise I will report you directly. Belle is also a little embarrassed. To be honest, this is a cover-up, in case Miss Aegina is jointly and severally responsible after investigation. Belle felt very fortunate to be able to get the help of Miss Aegina. Maybe he was already known to the guild by someone else. Also, Mr. Bell, you also need to pay attention to the dark faction. Those people are still lurking in the city of Orari. If you let those people know that you can influence the dungeon, you will definitely become their target. I don't think Miss Aegina can worry about this, because I also know what kind of trouble this kind of thing will cause, and I have been trying my best to control it. He was still surprised to hear the dark faction Belle called Miss Aegina. However, considering that Miss Aegina works in the guild, and the dungeon has also made a big noise from the dark faction, it is not unreasonable for Miss Aegina to have such worries. As for why Miss Aegina knows that the dark faction is lurking in the city of Orari, perhaps this should be a secret that is not a secret. P.S. For collection, for flowers, for evaluation 5. Chapter 66. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aegina poured Belle a glass of water, and there was tea ready in the lounge. Because of the special thermal insulation magic props used, the tea in the teapot can always be kept at the most suitable temperature. Aegina took a sip from the teacup, and the light aroma of the tea leaves kept invading her mouth, letting her tense spirit relax for a rare time. Mr. Bell, next time you run into trouble in the dungeon, tell me in time, so that I can prepare in advance. Even if you are dealing with the guild, you need to have a good caliber in advance, and if she doesn't even know anything, she can't make any cooperation at all. Knowing that Miss Aegina was really helping him, Belle naturally nodded and agreed. It was naturally the best thing to have someone in the guild who really helped him. I see, I'll make it clear to Miss Aegina about what happened to me in the dungeon 577. Well, that's fine. Aegina was glad Belle could say that. The character of this child was actually known to Aegina after a few encounters. From the very beginning, this child is a person who knows his position very well, and will choose the most suitable family according to his position. Aegina was almost certain that something had definitely happened to the child in the past, and this made the child's mind grow to a great extent. Of course, there are downsides to such growth. It is because of his too rational growth that this child has a very rational understanding of adventurers, and he always thinks the adventurer's character in the worst direction. It's just that Aegina doesn't know what the child has experienced to become like this, so she can't say anything more on this issue. Moreover, this child's skills are indeed not suitable for too much contact with unfamiliar adventurers, otherwise this child's skills will soon spread in Orari. Mr. Bell, your skills are too rare, so once exposed, you will face a lot of problems. However, even if you want to hide it on purpose, you can't keep it that way all the time. So, I suggest that you try not to expose your magic until you accumulate enough strength. Of course Bell also knew this, and he would never reveal himself in the case of lack of strength in the four-dimensional space. And for that, I have a question I want to ask. But you don't need to answer me directly, it's enough to express it. The next thing Aegina needed was a bit of a faux pas, so she said hello in advance. How high has your true strength been raised? The question silenced Belle for a moment. This question really touches on Belle's biggest secret, the less known the better. However, the other party was Miss Aegina, who had helped him hide the guild and gave him corresponding advice and information. At least the general situation could be known to her. Miss Aegina, how long did it take Orari to be promoted to LV.2, the fastest adventurer? Currently, the fastest speed holder to be promoted from LV.1 to LV.2 is the Sword Princess of the Loki familia, Ace Wallenstein. It only took her a year to upgrade to LV.2. So, I'm now 2/3 of that Ace Wallenstein. 35.2/3. Just entering the dungeon a few times has already reached 2/3 of the level of Sword Princess being promoted to LV.2. Doesn't that mean 35 foot? Miss Aegina immediately closed her mouth. Belle nodded slightly in Miss Aegina's astonished eyes. If I'm lucky enough, maybe I can get a big boost in a month or so. This directly reduced Orari's fastest time achieved by Sword Princess 8 years ago by 12 times. you must know that Xingyue is a child living in Orari. She has been in contact with adventurers since she was very young, and her growth also started very early, but what about Belle? It's just a child from the country, and he has not even become an adventurer for less than half a month, but this child has the potential to achieve a miracle that the whole Orari could not believe. It takes less than a month to go from LV.1 to LV.2. After the consternation, Aegina quickly regained her composure. Mr. Bell, you don't have to worry about promotion. It took a year for Xingyue to accumulate enough attributes to reach the limit, and then she completed her promotion. Completing the promotion too early will only waste your growth space. The implication is obvious. Aegina wants Belle to stay in LV.1 for a while longer. You don't need to be in a hurry to achieve the title of the fastest promotion. You can spend more time to make up your attribute values, instead of wasting your talent with the title of fastest. Of course, Belle also knew that Miss Aegina's idea was correct, but it was based on ordinary adventures. However, he did not refute this, but he also needed to talk to Miss Aegina about the promotion. After all, Miss Aegina would inevitably help him continue to hide it. Miss Aegina, in fact, I should stay at LV.1 for a long time. Aegina was stunned for a moment and then understood, and immediately sat upright, her face turned serious accordingly. Mr. Bell, this is a matter of course for every adventurer. The most common people in the city of Orari are LV.1 adventurers. This is normal in any place. Falsely reporting the level, Aegina naturally knows about this operation, and she also knows that many families have illegal operations that falsely report their level, all reported lower. It is important to know that the number and level of adventurers will affect the level of the family. After the level of the family reaches D, it is necessary to enter the 0.5 line expedition mandatory. Only when a certain goal is reached can it be completed, otherwise there will be a serious fine if it fails. It is also because of this that many family members will lower the level of some family members in the family. Of course, in addition to avoiding participation in expeditions to avoid raising the level of the family, there are also some families who simply do not want to reveal the level of their family members. Although the false report level is an illegal operation, as long as the operation is good enough, then no one knows it is not an illegal operation. Belle was glad that the person in charge of her was Miss Aegina. Otherwise she would have been exposed long ago. I will trouble you then, Miss Aegina. 39. This is my job, Belle. The two looked at each other and smiled, then changed the subject tacitly. P.S. For collections, for flowers, for evaluation. Chapter 67 Qualifications to Challenge the Strong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Then dealt with some dropped items, such as Goblin's Knife *2, Shadow Block *1, Frog Tongue *6, Frog Eye *12, Scorpion Tail *35, Minotaur's Horn *5, and some magic stones. The Minotaur's axe was deducted by Belle. The quality of those axe and the short knife was almost the same level and could be sold for a very good price, but not at this time. Belle needs to consider whether it will be troublesome for the Loki familiar to target, so he can only sell the Minotaur's horn at most, but this axe cannot be sold. The horn is not a rare drop, it is a common drop, but the axe is a rare drop, which is even rarer than the goblin knife. Goblin knives may be rare, but as long as you have the heart to kill goblins, you can still encounter them. After all, there are many adventurers in LV.1. But the Minotaur's axe is different. You must know that finding an adventurer in LV.1 is completely different from finding an adventurer in LV.2. Of course, there is nothing more conspicuous than the Minotaur's axe sold by an unknown adventurer in the guild. Once the news of 16 is spread out, the problem may be very serious. After disposing of all that could be sold, Belle made about 500,000 Phalis, compared with the original 26.4 million Ferris. This ability to make money is definitely not comparable, but this 500,000 Ferris still stands above most of Orari's adventurers. After doing these things, Belle walked into the crowd, and then walked to the ruins of the church in an unnoticed alley. After entering the church, carefully walked into the basement inside the church. Today's Hestia also returned home very early, watching her lying on the bed leisurely shaking her little feet and reading a book. This scene made Belle look completely relaxed. I'm back, Lord God. Oh. Mr. Bell, welcome back. hearing Belle's voice, Hestia, who was still lying on the bed, jumped up immediately, and her little feet jumped directly on the bed. Because of a previous experience, this time Belle directly hugged the god Sama who jumped at him. Lord God, did Hephaestus come back so early today? Well, today is the day when Loki's family returned from the expedition, and Hephaestus needs to start taking orders over there, so Hephaestus asked me to come back early. Expedition: when the level of the family reaches a certain level, the guild will be forced to conduct raids on the dungeon. The depths of the dungeons that need to be raided by different levels of clans are also different. For the Loki Familia with 3 LV.6s, the depth they need to conquer is undoubtedly the highest. However, the Loki Familiar is the familiar that Orly likes to go deep into the dungeon. Basically, the guild will not ask the Loki Familiar directly. After all, the Loki Familiar goes on expeditions more often than the guild requires. Of course, the word expedition has nothing to do with the current Hestia family. There is only one person in the entire family, and this person is only LV.1. To put it bluntly, such a family member may not even be able to take care of himself, such as being asked to go on an expedition. Speaking of the Loki family, Lord God, I seem to have met those people in the dungeon today. Hey! You met the Rocky kids? 99, it wasn't a head-on encounter. It was just that I ran into 5 Minotaurs when I went down to the 5th floor of the dungeon, and I also felt that someone was chasing them behind the Minotaurs. I think it should be Luo. Base family. Minotaur. Hestia's nerves were tense at once, to know that the Minotaur was the biggest obstacle for LV.1 adventurers. How many adventurers died under the hands of those Tauren? She hurriedly checked Belle's body again, and Hestia breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that her body was fine, but this fright was enough to frighten Hestia. Really, Mr. Bell, you should have said this sooner. 99. Most monsters like the Minotaur will die if they are encountered by LV.1 adventurers. Even if the level is only one level lower, it is the difference between heaven and earth for adventurers. There are very few cases of LV.1 overturning LV.2 in Orari's adventures, even if LV.1 has reached the limit of upgrading, and it is against the newly upgraded LV.2, there is not much chance of winning. Only those amazing adventurers have the qualifications to overtake higher-level enemies. Ordinary adventurers simply don't dare to think about these things. It was because of this situation that Hestia almost jumped up. The problem is that Belle is not an ordinary person. Lord God, the reason why LV.1 adventurers can't deal with the Minotaur is that the Minotaur's hard skin and ordinary weapons are not easy to cut, and the Minotaur's muscle division is amazing. Even if it is weapons that can cut through flesh are not likely to do much damage. In such a situation that the damage to the two sides is not equal, this is the reason why the Minotaur is the adventurer's first and greatest enemy. 35. If it's just more than the base ability, Belle can be sure that the Minotaur will cause serious damage to him if he hits him at once. The most direct competition of basic ability values, Belle is definitely not the opponent of the Minotaur, who is already LV.2580. Although I don't have the advantage of stats, the advantage of weapons and magic is mine. Lehua can be immune to physical attacks, and the speed is far faster than the reaction of the Minotaur, and the blade of Hestia in my hand is a sharp weapon created by the god Hephaestus. 5. Having these two advantages, I can deal with Minotaurs whose stats are higher than mine. The Minotaurs don't have any magic, so they didn't have the ability to fight me from the beginning. Although the gap between the ability value and the level is too large, it will also cause a crushing trend, but this crushing trend also needs to be seen. Belle's thunder is almost the most troublesome object of all magicians and melee combat. The physical attack is nullified and the speed is maximized, and this condition also makes Belle qualified for the leapfrog challenge. Personal training gave Belle the opportunity to grow rapidly. Royal Thunder equips Belle to challenge stronger opponents in the early game. It can be said that the simultaneous effect of these 2 points allows Belle to grow more rapidly. Lord God, speaking of this, I will trouble you today. I want to see if I have the feat of leveling up by killing 5 Minotaurs. PS, Seeking Collection. Seeking Flowers. Seeking Evaluation. Chapter 68. A Date at Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Name, Bell Cranel.lv.1 lv.2. Attributes. Strength, E487574, durability, D524D597, dexterity, C674854, agility, B787S901, magic, B784S924. Magic. 4-dimensional space. Storage. Royal Thunder. Quick attack magic. Emperor Raiden, skill. Personal training. Precocious. Luck. High luck, the growth rate of ability value is as great as before. Magic and Xingyue have directly entered the field of S for a long time, and even flexibility has reached the level of A. The only pity is that the growth of strength and durability is not very fast, of course. What attracted Hestia's attention the most was that LV.1 had already accumulated enough great achievements to be promoted. This discovery made her excited. Mr. Bell, your great deeds are enough, you can even upgrade now. It's not surprising that Bell, who is leaning on the god Sama, is not surprised. Those 5 Minotaurs were indeed enough for him to cross from LV.1 to LV.2. After all, this was a slaughter in terms of strength, and even 5 Minotaurs were not needed, maybe only one was enough. Congratulations, Mr. Bell. Although the goal is still far away, you have already taken the most critical step. So, Mr. Bell, will you level up now? No, not yet. 35. Bell shook his head slightly, his growth in LV.1 was not over yet. Lord God, there should be room for my ability value to continue to rise, right? Well, there's still a lot of room for growth. For ordinary adventurers, even using this PowerPoint is enough to advance, but Hestia knew that this was not the limit for Bell. It's only been 10 days since Bell became an adventurer, and it's even more than half a month, so there's no need to think about leveling up in such a hurry. Magic power and agility have reached S, flexibility has reached A, strength and durability are a little worse, still D, but close to C. 35. Are magic and agility up the fastest? Bell reacted, and the ability value was more like a reflection of his own fighting style. The reason for the magic power and agility to reach S should be the long-term use of lightning, which led to the rapid growth of magic power and agility. The flexibility is a little worse, but with that kind of high-speed movement, there must be a very rapid growth. The key is that the strength and durability growth is much worse. Then after entering the dungeon next time, I will change my fighting style and try my best to increase my strength and durability quickly. Bell's target is the hexagonal warrior. Strength and durability need to be supplemented due to the shift in fighting style. With the conditions to grow up, Bell would not choose to upgrade his level when the ability value was less than the limit value. Such an approach would only reduce his future growth space. Putting his clothes back on, Bell put those extra thoughts aside. Lord God, you are still free today, do you want to go out for a walk? Yeah. Bell jumped up in surprise when he saw Lord God. This reaction made him a little embarrassed. Ever since he was drawn to Orari, he has been thinking about his own affairs. The Lord God gave him such a great help and recognized him, but he did not spend a long time with the Lord God again. This is the first time Mr. Bell has asked me out, so I'll change my clothes. 35. Seeing Lord God looking so happy, Bell felt even more guilty. In the future, I will go out for a walk with the Lord God. In the evening, the sky was already shrouded in darkness, but for Orari, this time was just the beginning of nightlife. After walking out of the cul-de-sac, the dark night did not affect the bright lights on the streets of Orari at all. Wow, I haven't come out at night for a long time. It was cooler at night, and Hestia put on an extra layer of white coat in addition to her normal clothes. As for Bell, he was still wearing a slightly worn trench coat as usual, but today he didn't have a face and a hood together. Bell looked at the surrounding stalls with interest. The night was different from the morning. In the morning, there were stalls for weapons and equipment, and in the evening, it became a lot of snack stalls. Walking on the street, you can feel the local customs and customs of this Orari, and the way everyone completely let go of laughter at night. The street can be seen full of fireworks, and the pubs that are open to the outside around the street can also smell bursts of fragrance wafting out. Bell has always had some social fears in the past, and he is not good at communicating with people he doesn't know, and he is not good at talking to people on the street. The scenery of Orari at night just gives Bell some freshness. Sir Shangshan used to go outside often. Humph, that was when I was eating and drinking at Hephaestus's side. I often asked Hephaestus for money to buy food outside. 35. Belle's face twitched. In a sense Belle was sure that Hephaestus was absolutely in love with Lord God, otherwise, it will let the Lord God eat and drink, and even give the Lord God the money to come out and play. If his old friend had come to his house and made so many demands, Belle would have kicked the guy out. It's a shame for a person who eats rice to have so many demands. Lord God, I'm sorry, I can't be as generous to you as God Hephaestus. That I don't know why Belle felt a sense of guilt and regret. With a hand from behind, he took out a money bag that had been prepared for a long time. Lord God, this is for you. 99. Money bag? Yes. We're writing off a portion of the debt repayment, and I'm also keeping a pocket of money for day-to-day expenses, and this bag of money is that portion. There is not a lot of money in this bag, which is only 200,000 Ferris. Before returning from the guild today, I specially exchanged some coins with relatively small denominations from the large coins of the guild. Originally, this part of the money Belle was going to use as pocket money for Lord God. Belle, Li Qian's, is not worried that the god Sama will be hungry when he is working at the god of Hephaestus, but after finishing work, the god Sama will have pocket money to buy things if he wants to eat something. This is prepared today, and I originally planned to wait until the evening to tell the Lord God. Oh. Hestia took the purse, which felt heavy in her hand, at least more than 100,000 Ferriskins according to her estimate. Mr. Bell, I like you the most, that when she is greedy, she also has some things she wants to buy, so it is really uncomfortable when she has no money, but that was the old yellow calendar of the past. Today, she also has her own purse, and there is pocket money prepared for her by her favorite Belle. The word touched was written on Hestia's eyes, and her hands only hugged Belle's hands, and her body's center of gravity leaned towards Belle's design. To outsiders, it looks like a very good couple. P.S. For collections, for flowers, for evaluation. Chapter 69 Dating and Meeting the Working Gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Brother, look at that purse. The eldest brother, who subconsciously looked in the direction that the younger brother said, suddenly shook his pupils, and when he returned his hand, he was a big dick. Snapped. The little brother who spoke was almost slapped away by this slap. What happened? Before the younger brother could react, the elder brother grabbed his collar, and his voice gradually became terrifying. You idiot, your idea is on the gods. Only then did the stunned younger brother realize why the eldest brother wanted to slap him, and his body trembled involuntarily. When I thought that I almost wanted to attack a god just now, for the adventurers of Orari, the most difficult target is the god who bestows the adventurer's favor, unless it is an adventurer who is destined to choose to betray. Others who want to do something to the gods need to consider whether they can bear the price. You must know that adventurers who have attacked the gods in the past dynasties basically have no good results, and now his younger brother has set his sights on the money bag in the hands of the gods. Isn't this Nima impatient to live? What is it? Courting death does not bring such so the eldest brother warned his younger brother with a low and frightening voice. Idiot, you give me a good memory of this sentence. Don't think about the things of the gods, don't try to steal the things of the gods. There are many idiots who have this kind of stupid idea, but what will happen to those people in the end, believe me, you will never want to know. 99 That in fact, when he was told that the other party was a god, the younger brother had already started to tremble, and now the elder brother's warning made him tremble uncontrollably. Big brother, I definitely don't have that kind of thought. If he knew that the short and big girl was a god, he would never have such an idea of courting death. You don't even dare to think like this, kid. The eldest brother snorted, and after teaching the younger brother a lesson, he couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. Want to snatch something from the hands of the gods. That is really the idea of courting death. As an adventurer, he has always been in awe of the gods who can give them the opportunity to grow can also take away everything given them, so don't take the gods as harmless existences for humans and animals. The gods came to the lower realm for fun, but that didn't mean that they would laugh off trouble when they encountered troubles in the process of having fun. It's so naive to think like that. Gods, after all, are different beings from humans. Oh. Mr. Bell, the grilled octopus here tastes really good. Well, it's really good. On the recommendation of Lord Kasami, Belle also tried the grilled octopus from this food stall. As soon as you take a sip, the taste of the sauce enters your mouth at once. Belle doesn't really have a good culture, and there's no way to describe the taste very well, but the price of 200 fails for a skewer of grilled octopus does make sense. Not only is the portion large, but the key is that the taste is also very good. Of course. Although Xingyue looks very serious, he can't smile properly when he usually sets up a stall, but his craftsmanship is still very good. Xingyue. Belle almost choked on the grilled octopus in his mouth. I looked carefully at the chef who was doing the barbecue. He was dressed in white overalls and had a very strange hairstyle on his temples. He looked very characteristic of an island country. This Nima is a god. It really deserves to be Orari, although Belle knew that Xinyu Thor and Lord Kasami were workmates, but such a meeting was really beyond Belle's imagination. Hestia, being serious and having no way of laughing is superfluous. The so-called serious god Xingyue was speechless, and he hoped that Hestia could introduce him without those words. Belle is also looking at this extreme eastern god of war, who is also called the god of thunder, the god of swords, the god of archery, and the god of war. From the direction of the priesthood, this Xinyu Thor is really a god of war. Going to the limit in the way of martial arts. As for Belle, who is serious and doesn't laugh, it's not surprising at all. As the god of martial arts, it is naturally the martial courage that stands out, not the giggling. Well, thinking about it like that, Belle felt that the serious look of the Kenya Raijin in front of him was much more pleasing to the eye. After all, it is really hard to imagine that this serious face will be a bastard with giggling. Are you Hestia's servant? Xingyue also looked at Hestia's relatives with curiosity. These days Hestia would show off her relatives in front of them as long as she had free space. A lightning bolt? Magic, it should be. Why do I feel like power? Xingyue is still very sensitive to thunder and lightning, and there is also a part of his power that belongs to thunder and lightning. However, the speculation about power was quickly thrown aside by Xingyue. Children in the Nether cannot use powers, and children in the Nether cannot get powers. It turns out that it's no wonder that Hestia always brags in front of us that her children are excellent, and it doesn't seem like she's just bragging. It is not power, so Xingyue can be sure that this child can use very powerful thunder attribute magic. Adventurers with magic are a minority among the few in Orari, and children with magic at LV1 are even more rare, and such a child was met by Hestia. So it is no wonder that Hestia kept showing off. Hello, Xingyue God. Belle hurriedly greeted him politely. He didn't want to be embarrassed in front of Lord God in this regard. Well, a very polite kid. Humph, of course. Lord God proudly crossed his hips, and Belle couldn't help but want to laugh at that look. I always feel that Lord God is here to show off on purpose. Xingyue looked at Hestia's happy look and didn't shove her directly, otherwise he would definitely tell the woman's sinister intentions. However, Xingyue also admitted the gold content of Hestia's first child. The family he was looking for at the beginning was a child with magic, and Hestia officially started in Orari. You came out today to take care of my business. Belle felt a little ashamed in his heart, and always felt that Lord God would not have such thoughts. And the person who proposed to come out today was him. Lord God must have come up with an idea temporarily. It is estimated that he is going to pull him out to show his appearance around the gods. He of course not. I knew it. Hestia gave a negative answer with a smile on her face. Of course Xingyue was not surprised. Of course I'm not here to show off. 35. This statement really surprised Xingyue, but Hestia didn't give Xingyue any unexpected time, and hugged Belle's hand directly. I went out with Belle today on a date. P.S. Seeking collection. Seeking flowers. Seeking evaluation. Chapter 70. Into the Devil's Nest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A date. Xingyue was a little sluggish for a moment, and he looked at the happy Hestia in a little amazement. He was tempted to say, do you really know what that means? That the ultimate result of making a bond with a child of the lower world is often a tragedy. Xingyue wanted to remind Hestia very much, but when these words came to his mouth, he couldn't say them. Xingyue knew that Hestia in the celestial world had a good conversation with those goddesses who had returned to the celestial world. Hestia suddenly had such an idea and must have some connections with the goddesses in the celestial world. Many gods in the heavens also proposed to Hestia, but when Hestia was in the heavens, Hestia never took it seriously, so Hestia was called the virgin goddess in the heavens. Of course, virgin goddess is a bit of an insult to God, however, because the title is not too excessive. The gods will not really take this title to heart. After all, the gods who are called virgin goddesses in the heavens are not only Hestia, Athena and Artemis are also called virgin goddesses in the celestial world, because they have no interest in male gods. It's just that Hestia's lower realm found a child who was suitable for a fate. Xingyue shook his head slightly. He didn't know how to say this. The movement of flipping the skewer in his hand was faster. And then he picked up a bunch of grilled octopus and gave it to Hestia's child. This is what I invited you to eat. Hestia is an idiot. I don't have some words to say, but try to protect her as much as possible. Bell took the grilled octopus skewer. He could see the worry in Xingyue's eyes, and he understood the meaning of the words just now. Bell didn't shy away from it, and was more determined than ever. I will protect her with everything I have. Xingyue looked into the child's eyes, with a completely unwavering gaze and unwavering will. He could understand why Hestia became attached to the child in front of him, and Xingyue also saw the burning consciousness in the child's eyes. Sure enough, he is a very talented boy. Understanding the meaning of his words, this child's level is much higher than that of ordinary adventurers. In the face of the bond with the goddess, he did not have any unnecessary emotions, but made psychological awareness and preparation. The road ahead is bound to be full of thorns. The final result of the bond between the gods and the children of the lower world will not be much better. This is bound to end in tragedy. But even so, there are still many gods rushing to it. It's not that. Xingyue didn't understand that those gods were also looking for encounters, but what he saw was that more goddesses were no longer looking for fun, but kept that encounter in his heart forever. It was also because of this that Xingyue was worried that Hestia would become the next goddess like that, but Xingyue didn't have to worry anymore, because he knows that worry is useless. This encounter is the pursuit of the gods, and the sweetness and sourness in it must be indispensable. He couldn't stop it, and he didn't have the right to stop it. Then Xingyue, see you tomorrow. Don't come tomorrow, idiot. Hestia looked at Xingyue with a smile and pulled Bell forward. Xingyue shook his head slightly as Hestia left, but the old father-like thoughts in his heart seemed to have nowhere to rest. Hestia dragged Bell down the street and bought a lot of interesting things. However, as the first date, or the first time to eat out, Hestia still hopes to go to a more formal place with Bell to have a good meal. Bell also followed along, and he didn't know much about the streets of Orari. After all, he is not a person who likes to die. God knows if an incarnation of a goddess will pop up on the streets of Orari, so Bell was very careful when he came to O'Leary, and he was even more crowded when walking. Because only in the crowd will you not let yourself get too much attention, then just don't go to those dangerous places. Among them, the most dangerous place for Orari is a tavern called the Mistress of Plenty. The interior of the pub is of a low-key luxury type. For Flowers Zero, it is also the luxurious interior of the tavern, which makes this tavern a place where many adventurers often come. Of course, the consumption here is not too high, although it is not a big deal for high-level adventurers to eat here, but for low-level adventurers, eating here is a lifesaver. It is said that the per capita consumption of this tavern is about 2,000 fails. What does it mean? Low-level LV.1 adventurers enter the dungeon, and in the best case, the per capita income is only 10,000 to 20,000 fails, and 1/10 of a meal is killed here. And this is still the level of the special meal. If you want to drink or eat better, you will have to increase the cost. It is not uncommon for one meal to kill a LV.1 adventurer's hard work for a day. Moreover, 120,000 falis is considered a relatively good situation. If you are unlucky, you are really going crazy. For Bell, the biggest threat to this tavern is not the high consumption, but the goddess eyeliner hidden in the tavern attendant. The eyeliner of the beauty god Freya, who can see the potential qualities of an adventurer through his soul. Because Bell Cranel was targeted by Freya in the original book, Bell didn't dare to take the risk of letting the beauty god take a look at him, although Bell is confident that his soul will never have any light. What if? If there is, he will not be in trouble. That is, because of the excessive desire to survive, Bell did not dare to approach the rich hostess, which made Bell not even inquire about it. Because inquiring also leaves clues, which Bell doesn't allow. So Bell didn't even inquire about such a thing. That's how Bell was brought into this place that he regarded as a devil's lair by the Lord of the Gods without his knowledge. Even after sitting down, Bell didn't react right away, until the waitress with silver gray hair came over. "What would you like to order?" Bell saw the look on the female waiter's face almost froze. "P.S. For collection, for flowers, for evaluation 5.